Loading. System update. You are now part of the herd. Hello, and welcome back to Loading Her. This is episode 2. I'm going to share my story with you guys today. How's everybody today? So, I hope you're all doing well. I am good. I have been going back and forth on what I should make my second episode about, and I've been trying to decide if I want to tell my story, and I've decided that I am going to talk about what happened. It's a part of where I am today. And it is my survival story. I'm going to start with that. I am going to start with giving a trigger warning. Today's episode will contain physical violence, emotional abuse or manipulation, domestic violence, and talk about PTSD and trauma. This is my I survived story. It's not a story about how I survived one particular event, even though there is one main event that I think got me to feel more like a survivor, even though I do think that I am a survivor in many different ways. My parents had a hard, terrible divorce it started in middle school, and I think they loved each other, and I think there was a lot of pain there. And I think that they both lost themselves in that divorce and were not emotionally capable of not letting that love turn to hate. And so starting off in my childhood, I thought that love was volatile. I thought that people that loved each other, much like the movies, it is this desperate, hard thing that you fight for. In my early years, I was raised in a very loving environment. We were raised through a church, and I was homeschooled through a church, and I do believe that it was a loving environment at one point. And I think towards the end, things got dirty, and that is their story to tell. It's that I'm not going to get into the details of their divorce, but it definitely taught me at a young age that love was this hard thing that felt like you couldn't live without it and that you had to fight for it, and love was painful. So I ended up hanging out with my older sister and her friends at about age 14, and I wouldn't say wrapped up in the wrong crowd, but I was interested in hanging with the older kids. My sister is a year older than me, and the older kids were hanging out with even older kids, and me being 14 was hanging out with 15 and 16-year-olds who were hanging out with 18 and 19-year-olds, so I was 14 hanging out with almost adults. We liked to do drugs and drink and party, and I was 14 trying all different kinds of drugs that I should not have been doing, but it's what my friends were doing. And I was a baby. And looking back now at kids that I know that are 14, it is insane that I even was doing the things that I was doing at 14. But I ended up getting in a relationship with a boy who was a troubled child, and we had a very volatile relationship. It was very back and forth. You hurt me, I hurt you. I hurt you, you hurt me. And it was basically a situation where I was in love with a young addict. And I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that addiction was what I see it to be now, which is something I would not wish on my worst enemy. It is hard to watch. And I think alcohol has been a reoccurring situation in my life where people I love are addicted to alcohol. So little did I know 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old me was in love with an alcoholic. And I don't even know if he knew he was an alcoholic. He was 16. And we just had a very, what I thought was love, but it was a situation where he would go out on the weekends with his friends and they would go drink and go to parties, and he would leave me behind. I thought it was the end of the world. Every time he left me, I thought it was the end of the world. And I thought I could not live without him. It was an addiction. And I was addicted to love from male energy, I think, because I feel like I lost my dad when I was at a very important time in my life to where a man was supposed to be in my life, because I think certain events led to, me and my sister pushing back. We can live on our own. We can do anything we want because we have each other, and y'all can't tell us what to do. And it also got to a point where my parents had their own shit that they were dealing with. So I substituted the love that I needed from my dad for the love I thought I was getting from this boy. And looking back now, I still have nightmares about it. It was hard to stand up for myself. It was hard to really even know my worth, because I was not something that was worth this boy fighting for. I was something that it felt like he just played with, and he liked getting reactions out of me, and he liked when I felt insecure. So I went into my high school years very insecure, not knowing that I had value and that I was pretty and that I was whatever a young girl is supposed to be feeling at the time. My worth was very, very low, self-worth at this time. And I think this boy that I loved, I don't know if it was from a vindictive place in his heart or if he just doesn't know how to love. I don't know. But obviously we don't talk anymore. I ended up moving to Florida because of this boy when I was 20 years old, away from my family. I had never lived on my own away from family. I had moved in with my sister and with him and his family at a young age, and it was just very unstable. My freshman year of high school, I met my best friend, and we're still friends to this day, Nicole, and she was a senior at the time, and her and I go through a lot of the same things and still to this day do, which is crazy. But with her, I had a little bit of stability because I started hanging out with different people outside of my high school group of friends. I started hanging out with her friends who were also older than me, but they were better for me. The people that I hung out with when I was with her weren't doing a lot of the things that I was doing with my sister and her friends, who were my friends as well. So I had a little bit of an outlet from the relationship with the boy. When we would break up, I could go hang out with Nicole, and I could go stay at her house whenever things got bad with my mom or my parents. And at one point, I didn't have a phone and was able to join her family's phone plan. So I got to see what a healthy home life looked like, but also I got to be a part of a healthy home life at her house. And that gave me a lot of safety that I didn't feel like I had. And it gave me a little bit more trust in adults, because at the time, a lot of the adults in my life were not good examples of what I wanted to be when I became an adult. So I learned a lot from her and her family and her mom, and how they all stick together even to this day and are close. And I learned a lot from them, and I continue to learn a lot from my relationship with Nicole. And although I moved to Florida and her and I have lived apart more than we've lived together, we still keep a very close friendship. I think the boy moved me to Florida to separate me from my relationship with my sister and my relationship with Nicole and these strong women in my life that stood up for me a lot. And they say that abusers pull you away from the people that love you and isolate you so they can control you. And I do think essentially that that was what was happening. So although I was not alone and still had these people in my life, I was far away from them. So I did not feel as strong and as brave because I didn't have my tight-knit group of women in my life every day like I did back home, where they were always by my side, standing up for me, making me feel safe, helping me realize that I'm not crazy and that I'm not over here acting like, I don't know. Whenever you are in an abusive relationship and somebody psychologically abuses you, you struggle to trust your instincts and to trust yourself, because this person is making you believe that your instincts are wrong. And this person is making you think that you're crazy when you're not, and your instincts are right, and it's just making you feel like you can't trust yourself. And that, I think, is the worst feeling. So I moved to Florida, and looking back now, I am happy that I did, because it brought me to where I am today. But back then, I was isolated, and the man that I moved the boy that I moved to Florida with was all that I had. His friends that he already had made here, and I was alone. So I think by the time I got into my adult years, I got to a point to where I was searching for stability and love. And I ended up losing this boy a few times before we had decided to move to Florida, back and forth. He ended up actually leaving me for one of my best friends at the time. That was one of the hardest things that I had to overcome as a high school kid, being betrayed by not one, but two of the people that are supposed to love you the most and that you trusted. And I just remember that being very painful. But I was very familiar with having to heal from heartbreak because of this relationship, that each time my heart broke, it didn't hurt as bad as the next. So although I now, even talking about it, like makes my throat want to close up, think of heartbreak in a way that it still makes me want to throw up, because it is the most painful feeling. And I think it's because I attach that to a feeling of abandonment as well. So I decide to move to Florida with this boy, thinking it will solve all of our problems. And of course it didn't. Everything got worse. Everything got more physical. The drinking got worse. I was paying for all of his things. Basically, our entire relationship, I was supporting this person. I don't even remember how we paid the bills when we first moved here. I remember getting our apartment in my name, and I remember struggling to find a job for the first year or few months that I lived here into a year. And I got a job at a local restaurant where I met some of the best people I think I've ever met in my entire life. And now I have a good group of girls. They are family to me, and we have been friends since I've moved here. And it is a forever growing group of women. I think there's probably, when we all get together and we're all available, close to 20 of us, which is amazing. And I don't think a lot of people can say that they have girl friendships like that. I am grateful enough to have women in my life that don't make me feel like we're competing with each other and that we want each other to fail. Like, that is just not how we operate. So that group of girls, along with my best friend back home, along with my two sisters and my sister's friends. So I am just surrounded by a group of amazing women. And I've met some amazing women living here outside of this group. And I'm just picturing all of them in my head and how grateful I am for each of these friendships, and how grateful I am to be surrounded by women that want to lift other women up. And I know that that is not the case for a lot of people. So I guess I want to build that community for people that don't feel like they have that, because all of these women in my life, family or not, best friends for 15 years or 10 or 3 or 4, we support each other. We lift each other up and we make each other feel heard. And I think that is part of what brought me to want to start the herd, loading her, and to give a little bit of what I feel like I have in my life to other women that may not have that. So back to getting on topic of me moving to Florida. The boy that I dated in high school, we broke up. It definitely changed a part of me. And when I finally was able to break free of that, it was scary, but also freeing, and gave me a sense of, I don't know, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it, but it gave me a sense of, I don't know how to explain it trust in myself, trust in my decisions, because I definitely got to a point where I just couldn't take anymore. And this person, the boy, ended up stealing my dog that I brought into the relationship. And it was detrimental to me and to my happiness. And it was really hard to get over that. I ended up trying to go get the dog back in the worst way possible, the way that he took him. I didn't think about the repercussions of poor decision making and ended up getting arrested trying to get this dog back. I ended up never getting this dog back and having to love him from afar, the dog. And so I guess I started to realize what it felt like for someone to want to see you in pain, and giving somebody and trusting somebody to have a piece of you, whether it be your heart or something that you love, bringing that into a relationship or giving them access to living with you, giving them access to you. I mean, it's financial abuse, it's physical abuse, it's emotional abuse. This person would break things that I worked hard to buy because I didn't have parents that bought me stuff. I worked to buy my things. I worked to have the car that I had. So when this boy and I would get in fights, he would stomp out my windshield of my car or break things in my car. My car was my most prized possession because I worked so hard to buy myself a car and to be able to have that. So I learned that even though somebody says that they love you, that's not necessarily always the case. Sometimes they love to control you, or sometimes they don't want anybody else to have you and they think that that's love. And I don't think that always they do it from a vindictive place. I think sometimes it is from a place of just not knowing what love is supposed to feel like and not being able to see that love does exist in a safe, calm environment that doesn't make you feel like you're triggered. But, 14 to 19 to 20 years old, you don't know what being triggered even really means. So I got out of that relationship and ended up in another one with another alcoholic, but in a different way. He was kind and funny and people loved him. But much like my first boyfriend, this boyfriend would drink himself into points of me dragging him to bed, me trying to wake him up sometimes. I mean, points of him leaving me whenever we would get into fights and going to the bar, and God knows what he did. It was his way of keeping control. And I just remember being in my early 20s begging this man, who's also, I guess he would be in his late 20s to early 30s at this time, just begging him, why don't you want better for yourself? Why do you want to live this way? Why are you hurting me? It's me. And I just remember being not sitting in this relationship as long as I was in my first one, because I remember with my first one with this boy, he would be drunk and doing things that are hurting me. And I'd be like, it's me you're doing this to, thinking that they would snap out of it. I don't know why I thought that would work, but It never did. Not with either one of them. And I don't know if it's because I was in the restaurant industry that I kept finding myself in situations with alcoholics. I was drinking myself, but I am fortunate enough to have never had a problem with addiction. So the mind of an addict is confusing to me. I don't understand why someone would pick a substance or something that takes you out of your sober mind over people that they love or that they're supposed to love or that they say they love. And that was something that was hard for me to try to understand. So with this man in the second relationship, I obviously had dated people in between the two of them, but these are two that really stand out to me. And we were broken up at the time. And trigger warning, I was going to meet some of my friends after work, and I decided to stay home this night. So I get home probably around 11 or midnight and get ready for bed. My roommate at the time was not home, and her boyfriend, who stayed with us very often, was not home. I had just hiked on the No, I did not just hike on the Appalachian Trail. I had just gone on a van trip with a friend of mine, and my mom had my dog a different dog that I ended up getting later on in my life. So she was in Arkansas, and my roommate's boyfriend just got an apartment. So they were at his house with her dog. So I was home alone, and I decided to go to sleep. And I wake up, first of all, thinking I'm in a dream with somebody on top of me, and I can feel they're holding my face, my cheeks, I guess trying to keep my mouth closed, trying to keep me from screaming. And this person on top of me is punching me in the face, I guess in close to my temple, because I ended up having a fracture in my cheek. And I can't see anything. So I'm thinking I'm in a dream, and I'm like, ow, this hurts. I remember thinking like, ow, 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 this is not a good dream. What is happening? Usually I realize when I'm dreaming. Sometimes I will wake up and be like, oh, thank God that was a dream. Or I'll have a lucid dream where I know that I was dreaming, and I'm like, oh, I want to go back to that dream. But this one actually felt painful, and I realized it was real. I realized that it's not a dream and that this is real life. And I start to scream, and in my head, I'm like, my neighbors have to hear me. I live in a duplex, and my neighbors would share a wall with me, and there was at least one of them that had to be home, I was thinking. So I start to scream, and the person on top of me tells me that they will kill me if I don't shut the fuck up. And I was like, okay, this is real. This is really happening. And so something inside of me switched. I felt myself starting to pass out from the blows to my face. I think this person probably hit me between 15 times. Sometimes obviously harder than others because I was fighting him. And I remember I was like, I felt myself starting to pass out, and that I was like getting woozy, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to die here. So I kicked in an overdrive and started bucking my body to get this, because this person is their knees are on top of my arms holding me down, and their hand is holding my face and they're hitting me with their other face, and I can't see anything. So I don't know if my face is covered at this point. So I just start bucking like a bull. I mean, when I was a kid, I would play with all my friends, older brothers or my uncles or cousins. I liked to play rough, and I liked for someone to challenge my strength as a kid, which, looking back, I feel a lot of those times were preparing me for this situation to where I was going to have to fight for my life. And this method of bucking somebody off of me was something that I did with a lot of my friends' older brothers, because you know how an older brother sits on top of you and just messes with you or like pokes your face or whatever. So for some reason, that was my way of getting him off me. And once I got him off me, I was able to roll onto the floor of my room, and I saw who this person was, because come to find out, he had covered my face with a pair of his boxers. So I wouldn't be able to see who he was. Even though I didn't know him, I recognized him. I knew who he was. So I'm on my hands and knees on the side of my bed, and I looked up. I see who this person is, and I was obviously surprised to see somebody that I knew. And he was like, "Do you know who I am?" And I was like, "Yes, I know who you are." And I said, "Why are you doing this to me?" And I'm still on my hands and knees, bleeding from my face. I can't really breathe. You know, the feeling of when you get water up your nose? That is similar to the feeling that I had because my nose was so full of blood that I couldn't breathe out of it. And there was blood everywhere. So once I asked him why he was doing this to me, he looked at me and he was like, "Because I'm a terrible person and I deserve to be punished." And it was like he had a darkness in his eyes at that time. And then something switched, and it was like he noticed that I was bleeding, and he was like, "Oh my God, you're bleeding. Let me help you. What can I do for you? Can I get you a towel?" It was like he realized that he lost control of the situation. And with that, my instinct was to put my hand up and say, "Just give me a second." And I was trying to gather my bearings. My bedroom was right next to a bathroom. So I was like, "Go get me a towel." And so I got him out of the room for a brief second, and my keys were hanging on my closet door knob. So I grabbed those, had pepper spray on them, chose not to use that. He grabs me a towel. I'm wiping my face. I'm holding my keys in my hand, and I'm like, do I go lock myself in the bathroom, or do I run and try to get in my car and leave? So this whole time I'm trying to decide in my head. I mean, this is probably seconds going by, but it felt like minutes. This person, who I found out after I saw him, was my neighbor who lived in the duplex next to me, who had to walk past my bedroom window every night and day to get to his front door. I didn't really pay much attention to knowing this person, but I know that I had seen him before, and I would just call him neighbor because I didn't know his name. Now I know his name, which is probably exactly what he wanted. But in an empowering way. I know his name because I fought to have him put behind bars. I'll get to that. So I'm gathering my things, and this whole time, my neighbor is looking at me saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay? What do you need? Do you need something? Oh my gosh, you're bleeding. I can't believe this is happening." Like he wasn't the one that just had done this to me. And I remember him looking at me and being like, "Please, please don't tell anyone. Please don't call the police." And I was like, "Oh, we're so fine." I was like, "We're cool. I'm not going to tell anyone about this." I was like, "We're going to be friends after this. It's totally fine. There's no reason for me to tell anyone about this or call anyone." I was like, "Don't even worry about it." So he's kind of following me around my house like a child, not really paying attention to what I'm doing, just focusing on more so me not telling anyone or me not calling the police. So I start walking towards my front door, and he's still kind of following me, but not really paying attention, just kind of begging me not to call the police, not to tell anyone. And I make a run for it. I get in my car, I throw it in reverse, and I speed off. The sun is kind of coming up at this time, and I call the man that I was dating at the time. Well, not really dating, kind of broken up, but also we still communicated here and there. And I was like, "Hey, I'm coming to your house. I don't want to scare you. Prepare yourself." I don't know what he was thinking at the time, but I show up to his house not knowing how bad my face looked at the time. I'm sure I was very bloody and swollen. And so he made me call the police, and we go back to the house, and my neighbor was not there. I don't know if he was in his house at the time, but we call the police. The police come. They ask me if I know who did this to me, and I tell them, yes, it's my neighbor. They kept asking me if I knew him or if we had had a relationship before, and I was like, "No, I don't know this person. I have been around him a few times, but I don't know him." And they ended up finding him asleep in his bed. He had shaved his head, gone back, had my blood still on his fists, and I guess fell asleep. So they ended up checking all the windows in my house for his fingerprints, and he had tried a few different windows until he finally found one window that was unlocked. And that was the window he came in. They said that he probably has been in my house before because he knew where to go. He had probably been watching me because he knew I was home alone. And come to find out later, his roommate at the time was telling me that somehow he fabricated in his head that I was something that he deserved or that he should have. So he tried to take a piece of me and was not successful. He ended up being interviewed later on about why he was there and if he had a sexual reason for being there. And he told the police yes. But for some reason, a lot of the stuff that happened did not hold up in court. I had learned the hard way that the system is not necessarily there to protect a victim. And I thought him telling me he was going to kill me was enough, but that's hearsay. There was no proof. I was the only witness to him threatening my life. He ended up going to jail that night, obviously, and bailing out in less than 24 hours. he ended up going to a local bar that he frequented and telling people that he got in a bar fight and that he needed money to leave town because people were looking for him. The bar fight that he got into was him attacking me in my sleep. And he probably thought that people that loved me were going to be looking for him. But at this bar, people gave him money to get out of town. People drove him to get out of town. Them unknowingly doing so, hopefully, is what I think, is that they unknowingly did all of this to help him, not knowing that he had just done all of this to me. So, flash forward a few days, I'm working at the restaurant that I worked at with my face all beat up. I had 2 black eyes. I took off a little bit of work, but I was supporting myself. I couldn't take off work and not have money to pay my bills. I was finally living on my own. I was finally in a place where I had thought that I was safe. I mean, I was a little carefree 22-year-old girl with dreadlocks living on the beach. I didn't think that anyone would hurt me. I thought that the energy that you give off into the world is the energy that you receive back. I thought that the world was more forgiving and a safer place than it was. And I learned that the hard way is not the case. So I'm at work and this man comes in and he's like, I know you don't know who I am. He was like, but I own the bar that the man that attacked you was going to get money, and I want you to come work for me. And I was like, okay, like obviously that was the last thing on my mind. And he put $100 bill in my tip jar and I never saw him again. He ended up passing away a few months after that, and I ended up getting a job at the bar that he owned and now still work there to this day. And am so thankful for that man who changed my life and got me to where I am today because of this bar. I think that I have had a lot of my prayers answered financially, and I have been able to have the stability that I was searching for. And I think that obviously me being attacked was a terrible thing that doesn't even feel real. I mean, obviously it feels real because I've had to do the work to heal through it. But talking about it is the way that I've been able to heal through it. And I think that, as cliche as it is, everything happens for a reason, because I really don't think that I would be sitting where I am today because of the things that happened to get me to this point. And good or bad relationships that brought me to Florida, bad situations that got me the job at the bar. I think the whole point is, yes, bad things happen, but it's not about the bad things that happen to you. It's about what you do with it. And with the court case, I made sure the judge saw pictures of me and what he had done to my face. Because 3 years later, we're going through court. His whole family is sitting there while he's talking about how he has a drinking problem and he needed to go to rehab. And that's why he did everything that he did. But I'm sitting there like normal people with a drinking problem. Here's that drinking problem thing again. don't do what you did. You're a predator. You preyed on me and you hurt me physically, emotionally. I felt unsafe in my home. I ended up staying in a relationship with a man that would look at me and say, I can't believe we're still doing this, when I had to stay at his house to feel safe. Longer than he thought that I should have been doing that. I think in some ways I found my strength and my voice through this. But in other ways, I lost faith in men. I think it was a lot of situations that had finally got me to this point to where I felt like I could not trust men. And it was because besides my dad, hadn't really ever met a man that was trustworthy, that was not there to hurt me. And obviously, unknowingly, I think that my dad hurt me. I don't think he did it on purpose. But I think I definitely got to a situation to where I couldn't trust men. And I think working in the bar doesn't help. Seeing how men handle themselves, how men carry themselves, it just got me to a place where I really just felt like there weren't any good men out there. So I make sure that I'm sitting outside my house when his parents come to pick his things up with my 2 black eyes, sitting on my stoop so they can see what he did to me. And yet, still, when it comes time for us to go to court, they're sitting there behind him, supporting him, talking about how he has a drinking problem and how they've seen so much of a change in him. I get up, I read my victim impact statement. All my friends are there supporting me. People in my life read victim impact statements on how this changed, how this could have changed for. I think often how if he had a weapon, I would not be here today. I think if I had a weapon, how he would not be here today. I do think that everything played out the way that it was supposed to play out. And was thinking for some reason that he was just going to get probation because it was his first offense. Come to find out later, talking with some other women that have come in contact with him and some other people that had come in contact with him, he was a violent person, especially when he drank. And so I had these people write letters to the judge. I took pictures of my face through my healing process, how long it took, how deformed my face looked, and sent them to the judge. I wanted to make sure that he saw the truth of what had happened to me. Fast forward to today, has been in prison. He got prison time, but he got as long as he probably could have. And he will be out, I think, in 2029. So be aware. Lock your doors. Bad things happen to good people. And I really wanted to share this story with you guys today because I wanted to set the foundation for loading her. I wanted to make this a safe space for you to feel like you can share your story. And I wanted you to feel like you have the power to do anything you put your mind to, because I do believe that that is true. I do believe that talking about bad things, embarrassing things, hard relationships, things that hurt us is what will heal us. I think being surrounded by a group of people who feel the same way, who are supportive, loving, and not judgmental, help with healing. I think everybody has their story, but those stories are what bring us to this point right now that have created us into the person that we are. And what I want Loading Her to be is that safe space for you to feel like you can share your story. And I want it to be the safe space where I share my stories and lessons that I've learned, because I feel like I have learned a lot of them the hard way because I'm stubborn, and also because I'm trusting of people. And I keep finding myself today, even in situations where I'm disappointed in the way that somebody handles a situation because it's not how I would do it. So that's something I'm learning right now. What I see for Loading Her is a community where we can share the good things and the bad. We can talk about what we're going through. We can talk about how hard it is to venture into something new and scary, much like me going into the real estate world, or the first time I ever bartended, or first time I ever taught a yoga class. Putting myself out of my comfort zone has helped me to grow as a person. I think Loading Her is about us hearing each other and hopefully learning from each other's mistakes, or even feeling a sense of community, like there are other women out there going through some of the similar things that I'm going through. Feelings of insecurity, feeling like I wasn't good enough, like I wasn't pretty, like I wasn't skinny, like I wasn't, all of these things that we go through as women that are real. Being in abusive relationship after abusive relationship. I finally made a promise to myself that I was going to find someone that did not partake in drinking as a hobby or a way to relax or a way to cope. And I prayed for that and manifested it. And now today I sit here in a relationship with a man that makes me feel all of the things that I feel like I was searching for when I was with all of the wrong people, letting all of the wrong people treat my body the way they wanted to, because I wanted love so bad that I let people in that shouldn't have been let in. And I let people, men especially, treat me the way they thought that I wanted to be treated, or whatever I thought that I could do to make someone love me, I let them treat me that way. And sitting here now in a relationship that is not detrimental to my happiness, sitting here in a place where I have found my voice and my safety in myself before finding this relationship, doing the work to be alone, to live alone, to find a sense of security in myself, and then love someone when I was ready. I look forward to coming home every day. It is the love that I feel like I had manifested for myself. I feel so grateful to have the love that I have now with the man that I'm with now. But it took a lot of work for me to get to a point to where I was able to receive that love, for us to learn how to love each other the way we needed to be loved, because we definitely did not have an easy go in the beginning. But I believe that we found our flow and we figured out that this is the person I want to be with. This person is my best friend. And it doesn't feel like the other relationships where I'm scared to go to a party with him, worried if he's going to have too much to drink and get abusive with me in front of my friends and family. That was something that I worried about before. With all of that being said, there's a lot that I have had to overcome because of these people that I let into my life that didn't know how to treat me, that I didn't teach them how to treat me. I have had to learn how to live with social anxiety. I have had to learn how to live with panic attacks that don't happen as often as they did before. But because of these people that took pieces of me and I let them, not always, some of them stole pieces of me, but a lot of them I let them take these pieces of me. And I hope that somebody who is possibly in an abusive relationship with an addict, or somebody that is too scared to go down to the courthouse and file something to protect themselves or to protect other women later on, or maybe you're just scared to take that first step into something that has been on your mind, like starting a new business or starting a new job that'll give you more confidence or more financial freedom. Whatever it may be, I hope that my survival story that have brought me here, whatever that may be, I hope that my survival story can be something that helps you do something for your future, that helps you share your story and heal through your trauma, that helps you be brave. And I think that is the moral of my episode today. I think that is another reason that I am starting Loading Her, because I think that sometimes you just need a place to get it out. And I hope that you feel like this is a safe space. I see Loading Her to be a powerful movement for women. And eventually, I would like to interview women that have been through similar things that I've been through, or that other women can resonate with. And I find myself liking biographies, especially by women that have been through some hardships in their life, and women that have gone outside the lines of what we're supposed to be or look like and have become successful in the end. I want Loading Her to be the success story for all of us. And I want Loading Her to inspire you to be brave, to be yourself, to trust your instincts. So with that being said, if you have a story that you would like to share with your herd, please email me at loading.her@gmail.com. You don't have to use your real name. And if you are comfortable with me sharing it on an episode, I would love to share a few of your stories. I want Loading Her to be the voice for all of us who feel like we don't have a voice or did not have a voice at one time. I definitely think that I was silenced by trauma. I was silenced by abusive relationships, and I was silenced by pain because I was scared. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for me anymore. I don't feel like I live like that anymore. And I think Loading Her is a great place for us to start overcoming the things that scare the shit out of us and talking about what we're going through, what we've been through, and getting to the point of feeling like those parts of us, the things that have happened to us, the people that have hurt us, are not controlling us. I really do want to thank you for listening to my truth today. I know it is heavy. I do not share it for sympathy, but to remind her that pain does not define us, but our strength does. And I think with unity, we can find strength, and together we can feel safe and secure. And if you're carrying something too, I just want you to know that you're not alone. And that we will rise together. And we will keep loading her. Thank you so much for being here today. Please write in to me. I want you to be a part of this experience with me. Loading.her@gmail.com. Thanks for being a part of my herd. I love you guys. We'll talk soon.